have challenges, we know that, and our next guest is an expert on how we can overcome them. She joins us now with tips from her book, Breaking Boxes, Dismantling the Metaphorical Boxes That Bind Us. Author Betsy Pepine joins me now with more. Betsy, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thanks for coming. I love your book, and I know that you talk about how boxes and the idea of a box is a social construct.
Yes.
Why do we do it?
Well, we do it because we started out as hunter-gatherers, right, as a species, and we have so much information coming in. You have to identify who's good, who's bad, who's a threat, who's not, for our safety. And then now we're inundated with information, so to assimilate all of that information, we do have to categorize. But the problem is we start categorizing too much and putting labels on those categories. And that's when the danger comes.
And that's when you limit yourself in multiple ways in life.
Exactly. And people limit you, but we limit ourselves too. We put those labels on ourselves, and then it's hard for us to break out of those constructs.
One, I guess, box I want to begin with is the career box.
Yes.
Sometimes, and you mentioned in your own life, your parents had one idea for you, you had another professionally. Sometimes we place those boxes on ourselves, and also we're just trapped for a variety of reasons. How do we break out of that and do what speaks to us?
Yeah, I think for me it was understanding what did I really want. I did an exercise with myself called the future vision exercise. What did my life want to look like in 10 years, 20 years? The career that I was in was not in that life that I wanted. And to be able to bridge that gap, how is it going to get there? So it's that, and it's also walking through what is it going to take. You're going to ruffle some feathers when you step outside boxes that people are used to seeing you in, but understanding that that's okay. What's the worst case? Somebody may not like your decision. Is that okay? Most of the time when we walk through what's the worst case scenario, we can live with that. It may be uncomfortable. It may not be what we wanted, but it's going to be okay. And saying yes to yourself means more than saying yes to other people.
And you also say, too, that these big changes, the life changes that we make, they do not have to happen overnight.
Absolutely.
It's okay to set up a timeline and an exit strategy. So elaborate, because if you do some things too soon, you can cause more harm than good.
Right, and I'm a big proponent of baby steps. When I switched careers, I had a decade in one career and I switched to another. I had a plan B, so I knew that if it didn't work, I had an exit strategy. I built up a small but a solid nest egg. I could live on rice and beans for 2 years if this plan didn't work out. So that helps mitigate some of the risk and fear that I felt. So those are some steps you can take to help ease yourself into a new box.
What if someone has been in a box, be it personal or professional, for decades, and that fear is there? In fact, it's stifling. How do they begin to lift that in order to even start planning next steps?
I love that. So identify what is the fear? Is it a fear of loss, a loss of status and identity? Is it a fear of social connection? Or is it a financial security fear? Those are usually the three main fears. Then walk through each of those fears. And how do you mitigate that? Status, that's an ego. I always say, put my ego on the shelf. When I feel my ego getting in the way, put it on the shelf and focus on things that are not ego. If it's social, maybe those relationships have come to fruition. Maybe they're no longer serve you. Doesn't mean it's bad, it just meant it served you and you need to move on. And then the financial security, there are ways to mitigate that in terms of passive income streams, building the nest egg. And then the final fear is fear of failure. And that to me is also a mental construct. For me, it's not failure. The worst case, it's a learning, it's a lesson, it's a pivot that I didn't expect. But it's not a failure. I don't look at things as failure. We don't have to look at things as failure. And I think that gives us the freedom to try things that we might not want to.
I have a friend, and when I share this story, people laugh, but I think the heart of it is what you just spoke about, who was let go from a job. And she said, you know, Marissa, I wasn't fired. I was released to my destiny.
Exactly.
And now she's doing something that she enjoys far more. So you just have to look at your own idea and construct when it comes to failure and what works for you. So thank you for dismantling boxes this morning,
You're
Betsy.
welcome.
We appreciate it. And you can get her book wherever books are sold. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, Stephen.
All right, Marissa, such a good interview with so much good information. I remember many days eating rice and beans. But what I can tell you right now, those rice and beans are going to be good for the pups this holiday season. We're going to get a little deep dive into what pups can eat this fall season as the holiday season comes in. We got some